Hello, Malik Currington here, Family Budget Fisherman. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. As I had explained in a previous video, I had taken 3 rods fishing. I took the Shimano Curado, I took the Daiwa Tatula cork handle, and I took the Phoenix M1 2020 rod. All 3 were spinning rods, and they all were paired with the Revo X 30 spinning reel. And of course, they had my Fins 30 40 G line with the the 215 and the 20-pound leader. The 215 braided line diameter and the 20-pound test fluorocarbon leader. So they were all outfitted virtually the same, but the rods themselves made the difference. And I spent an entire afternoon with them, enjoyed my fishing with them, and so I want to talk to you about it. So let's get started. All right, so I am holding in my hand the Shimano Curado Spinning Rod. Now, most of you have heard about the Shimano Curado baitcast rod. As you all know, that the Curado name brand is a really, really good name brand for a mid-level workhorse style of rods and reels, particularly for the baitcast. On the baitcast side, the Curado baitcast reels are, pun intended, they're stellar. Or so, but at any rate, so I wanted to share with you the Curado spinning rod, to give you my impressions after owning it for over a year. I've owned it for over a year. I broke one of the rod tips on one of them, and I still got this one. And I enjoy this rod. Now, I did notice that this rod is not for every application, okay? That extra fast tip on this rod limits it in a good number of ways. So if you're trying to do ultra finesse, for example, I would not pull this rod out first. I'd pull out my Phoenix or my Daiwa Tatula. Now, having said that, if I'm going to go for some reaction, I'm pulling this out. If I'm going to go for, and that's reaction on the finesse side, like power finesse fishing. And power finesse fishing is, for example, if I'm going to put a 1/4 ounce jig head on this rod and I'm going to throw a crawdad, or I'm going to throw a big worm, a worm that's at least 6 inches or bigger, all that's power finesse fishing. If I'm going to throw a tube that is 3 inches or bigger, or I'm going to throw weight that is a 1/4 ounce or bigger, I'm at the power finesse levels. Remember, power finesse is an application where you're speeding up the process by which you are presenting a finesse bait, a traditionally finesse bait. As much as people don't want to admit it, even on the, on the power end, when you throw a bass jig and you drag it across the ground real slow, that is finesse fishing. Okay, just plain and simple. It's just you got a heavy jig, but it's finesse fishing. So tubes, finesse fishing. When you're dragging a lipless crankbait across the ground, when you're throwing Ned rigs, all that's finesse fishing. Well, this rod performs best at the power finesse level and the mid-level reaction. So if I'm throwing a 3/8 ounce, if I'm throwing a a heavier bait, say I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce jig head, I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce swim jig, I'm throwing a chatterbait, this rod works. Even if I'm doing some pitching and flipping using a 1/2 ounce or 5/8, reaching this rod's limit for weight, it's really good. I mean, it flexes really well. You can pull fish out of cover really well. It's a really good rod to make an investment in. Here's where I believe the rod does not perform as well. And that is, let me catch this leader before it does something to me. And that is where you're having to slow down. When you have to slow down, this rod rather, does not respond as much as, say, the Phoenix or the Daiwa does. Although you could do it. I mean, if it's the only rod you have, it would work. This rod sells for the same price as the Shimano Curado bait cast rod at $159. And I would say that if you could get it on a discount, do that. It is more valuable to you on a discount. This rod does stack up well to in that family of 100, I'd say 125 to 175 or $180 rods, up in that area. This does stand up well. But like I said, this will be the rod that you use as a backup. So for example, if you're throwing frogs on another rod, this is the rod you have the worm on, so that when that fish blows up on the frog and misses the frog, you're already picking up this rod and you're tossing that worm, or you're tossing whatever the bait is that you would choose. I personally I always have a worm backup. Whenever I'm frog fishing, I have a worm backup. So if I get a blow up and that blow up doesn't work, I don't throw the frog back over there. I throw that worm back over there, and it's usually a worm with no lead weight or tungsten weight. It's just a worm that has a superline hook in it, whether it's a 4/0, whether it's a 5/0. It's a superline hook. I got a good salty worm, and I throw it in there. This is what this would work best with. This also works best if I'm throwing crankbaits and I want to have another rod ready to go with a different crankbait, whether that is a crankbait that dives 10 feet, a shallow diving crankbait, a wake bait. And I'm saying wake baits. I'm not talking wake baits. So this rod performs extremely well, but it just has a limited window. I even threw crappie jigs on it. I caught a crappie, as you saw in the video. I caught a crappie and I threw a 1/16 ounce, 2-inch curly tail and caught that little old, 8-inch crappie, which was really nice. Very responsive, very sensitive. This rod is extremely sensitive. It's just the responsiveness it doesn't load as quickly as, say, some of the others. And that's because it's an extra fast as opposed to the others of mediums and medium lights that are fast. So I would say put this on your list. If you already have other rods and you want to try something new, try something different, go with this. It has great guides. These are the Tangle free guides, and it's got a bunch of them too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 guides, and the line goes through them really easily. The hook keeper is on the side here, and yeah, that works. For me, anywhere along here is fine. I just don't prefer them to be down here where I'm grabbing, or I'm doing a lot of my grabbing. That may work for other, like the bait casters, but it doesn't work as well for me way down here. I prefer it to be up here. Now, having said that, I work with the ones that are below. I just know I got to take the bait off when I handle those other rods. This one I could probably leave the bait on, but the other rods, So at any rate, this, you could find this at most shops. Tackle Warehouse still sells them. You can find them there. I think you can find them at Tackle Direct. And some of the other places. You can no longer, I bought these at Bass Pro Shops, and you can no longer find them at Bass Pro Shops, though. Go figure. Don't know why, but they're kind of shaking up their Shimano rods on the spinning side. They do have the new Zodius, the 2020 Zodius rods, which I thought was pretty interesting. I know there are a lot of you who are emailing me, texting me. I mean, not texting me. You're posting comments on the channel, and you're DMing me saying, hey, how can I find these rods? They're difficult to find. They're at Dick's Sporting Goods, and they're at Bass Pro Shops, but they come and go rather quickly, just like the Vanford spinning reel. It goes quickly. You got to check those websites 2 and 3 times a day. That's just the way it is. If you want to get those rods from those places, you got to check those places. So at any rate, I recommend this rod under those limited circumstances. I have one, and I do plan to get another one eventually. I am going to get that one repaired and give it to one of the family members, but I'm going to get me another one because I like them, and for the applications that this presents, this is what I like. So as I close, let me say, don't ever, never let someone convince you to break your family's budget by omission or commission. Don't let them do it. To purchase this rod or anything else that I presented to you on this channel, or anything else that you can find, but by every other means that is both legal and ethical, get out there and break your personal best. I'll see you in the next video. Have a great one and be safe on the water.